Hello everybody and welcome again to another Wardy's Weekly Waffle. Thank you ever so much for the comments from the Country File episode that I appeared in last week, and until you see the actual finished version you never know how much they're going to cut out, and I actually think they really did a good job. They only left one point out that I would have liked to have kept in, and that was about food labelling, because I actually said that just because you see a Union flag on a bag or a packet, it doesn't mean to say the contents are British, but they left that bit out. But everything else, really, I think it was a very good balanced view on the crop and the importance of it, and also the problems we have or the difficulties we have in getting a fair price for it. But anyway, no, thanks for those comments, much appreciated. Behind me you'll see a heap of sugar beet that you'll have seen from last week. Went into the clamp here on the concrete in the yard. You can see here we've got the beet cleaner behind me ready to go. Apologise for the wind if it's a bit noisy, I'll try and get out of the way. It's ruining my hair. But yeah, behind me we've got this heap of sugar beet. That's better. And it's going into the factory starting on Monday. It was meant to have been going in this last weekend as of today, but the haulier changed his plans. I don't really want it in heat much more than another week because it is pushed up quite high, as you can see, but we do that on purpose so it heats up a little bit in the heap, which actually dries the soil that's in there because it was quite wet when we lifted it. But the sugars will reduce if it's doesn't go into factory within the next week to 10 days, which hopefully it will. So we'll have a bit of an update on that next week. The weather effects from the heavy winds we had last week, I've got a few bits and bobs on that. And also I was at the NFU conference this last week in Birmingham. I actually managed to ask George Eustice a question. That's in there, but of course, as usual, the answer wasn't related to the question. But anyway, I've got a few minutes of that as well. Also as well, we went to Farrell's, our local John Deere dealer, to talk about the 8RX, but you'll hear the results of that at the end. So on we go to this week. Thanks everybody for watching and subscribing. Hope you've enjoyed it. Questions as ever, please come back to me. Here we go. Oh yes, there's one thing I did forget. Also, Rhonda is going to be giving a 2-minute update on the Farm Safety Day that she has organised for East Midlands NFU members. And this is going to be at the Newark showground, so Rhonda's going to be giving a couple of minutes update and a brief overview of what that entails. This coming week, the NFU have got a Farm Safety Day at Newark showground, and Rhonda is helping organise it. So Rhonda, what is the format of the day and when is it?
Thank you, Andrew. As he says, it is on Wednesday, the 2nd of March at Newark Showground. It's open to all, not just NFU members. The fatality record in the industry is so bad, something like 41 deaths just last year, and we need to do something about it.
So, and it's on this coming Wednesday, and who have you got participating and what's happening?
We have got a vast array of exhibitors, including people like Farrell, Farmers Weekly are there, Tilly My Trailer, we've got Nottinghamshire Police. Goodness me, the list is so long, Andrew. And are there seminars going on, or is it just sort of practical demonstrations? Yeah, there are. So we have some live demonstrations, and we've got seminars as well in the Lady Eastwood. And the most important thing is, if you attend, you get 2 Neroso points for attending, and I'm advised that you'll be able to get additional points for attending individual seminars as well. And what about chemical handling or plant protection products and storage? Yeah. So what some of the demonstrations we've got are safe storage and handling of chemicals. Bridgestone tyres are coming, and they're bringing quite a few tyres that they'll show you are illegal. Also about safe handling of tyres and putting ones on. There'll be a tyre cage. And I think that will be quite an interesting one, actually. And registration, is it a must, or can people just turn up? We would prefer people to register because there is some free food and drink on arrival. Goodie. Yeah, goodie. And there are flyers on social media and on the NFU East Midlands website. But I can give Andrew the details to add to the end of this video so that you can make contact. What I'll do in the description of this video on YouTube, I'll put the link into it where to register and any necessary details. And if you'd like to attend, please register, because it's going to be really good and it's so useful before we get our spring onrush of activities on the farm. So please, it's so important, farm safety, as we all know. As Ron's has just said, there are so many fatalities, which are far, far too many
in agriculture. It's the worst industry there is in the UK for these, and we need to stop this. So all credit to Rhonda and the NFU for helping to organise it. So yeah, great.
Thank you. Please, as Andrew said, do come and do make sure that you bring as many people with you as you can. This isn't something to mess around with. Serious injuries, fatalities, we need to put a stop to it. Thank you very much.
It's Tuesday morning, about 6:45. I'm at Newark station, just about to catch the train to Birmingham, first day of the NFU National Conference. Quite a bit of water here en route to Birmingham. We've had about 22 millimetres of rain at home in the last 3 or 4 days. It looks like they've had more than that here. Now in the middle of Birmingham. Spot the farmers. So this is it. This is where the conference is taking place. And interesting, there are no activists outside. Quite often we're bombarded and have to fight our way through a load of tree huggers, but not this year. So here we are inside, just about to register, and they need to see our registration form. So that's it, which is just up here. So we'll do that and get inside and get a coffee. So I'm with Rhonda. Rhonda came last night and was up to no good, probably in walkabouts or somewhere in Birmingham.
No.
Anyway, we've just registered now and we're going to have a coffee and something to eat before the conference kicks off.
2022. Please welcome NFU President Minette Batters.
Good morning, conference, and can I say how good it feels to have everyone in this room together. And I know that many of you are feeling exactly the same, and well done to everyone who's made it here from those storm-hit areas of the country, especially those without electricity and hot running water, as I was and actually still am. The last year has been a roller coaster ride, and we've all, I'm sure, had highs and lows. There are currently 200,000 pigs on contract, backed up on farm. 40,000 healthy pigs have been culled and simply thrown away. This truly is an utter disgrace and a disaster for the pig industry. And it is down to government's poorly designed change to immigration policy, and what I can only say appears to be their total lack of understanding of how food production works and what it needs. The pain and emotional anger from those pig farmers who feel utterly let down and abandoned is palpable. Some are approaching debts of £1 million now, and every week it gets worse. It hurts. We are continuing to work with the National Pig Association to support those farmers and push government to help find a way forwards. It should not have come to this. But situations like this remind me more and more to be determined, to shape a new and better future for not only how we produce our food, but how we achieve a fair return for it.
Now we've got lunch, some lovely food here. Sorry? Luckily I was one of the first in, so I've eaten mine. And here we go. My place has been moved.
They told me someone important was sitting here. And then
You can't find him.
You can sit, of course you can sit here.
In a minute.
I'm sure.
Okay.
You'll go around there next to Robbie.
Annie, do you fancy? There we go.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Are you filming?
Yeah, I am.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's it. So.
Conference, a very warm welcome back. Now, the highlight of the day, I hope, in welcoming in our Secretary of State, George Eustice. I am also delighted to welcome Farming Minister Victoria Prentice, who is sat in the front row as well. But without further ado, I would like to welcome George Eustice, Secretary of State, to give his keynote address to conference.
This is going to be interesting.
Well, Minette, thank you very much, and it is a real pleasure to be here again. The last time I stood on this stage addressing the NFU was 2 years ago, and of course since then we've had 2 years of extraordinary disruption with the COVID pandemic. And I wanted to, first of all, recognise the phenomenal efforts of the food and farming industry in helping us deal with that pandemic, particularly early on when we had that panic buying episode. The efforts of the industry to deal with some of the stresses and strains in the supply chain was truly extraordinary. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank both Minette and Terry and the whole team at the NFU for all of the work and engagement that they gave us during that difficult period and indeed since. And I also want to thank the NFU and Minette's team for the work that they've done working with DEFRA in helping to develop our future policy. Because this is an area that, despite the distractions of the pandemic, we have maintained some progress and have maintained the delivery of some of the changes that we want to see during the agricultural transition. We have an approach that's much more modular, more optional, where farmers can actually choose what works for their own particular holding and their own particular enterprise, and can choose the level of ambition that they would like to adopt in each of those areas.
Over a year ago, Michael Gove was on Countryfile, interviewed by Tom Heap, and he promised that import standards would match our own standards of food production. And he promised that. And quite clearly, with what is happening at the moment, with the trade deal you've done with Australia, with the sugar quota extension you've done, allowed that to come in, those countries can still use paraquat. This was banned here in 2003. So I would actually think you have gone against your word, and I could wonder if you could please explain why.
On the trade deal with Australia, we have an SPS chapter that sets out our standards. And so on those livestock sectors, the ban that we have on hormones in beef remains in place. The ban that we have on washes on poultry, such as chlorine or others, remains in place. And they'll have to meet those standards in order to be able to access our market. Now, on the fringes of that, of course, there are some issues, some practices that have not yet been banned in Australia. So mulesing is one example. It has been banned in New Zealand, mainly due to British consumer pressure and retail pressure in the UK. And I know that Australia are moving in that direction. But then there are other areas and on other measures where in some ways, when it comes to, for instance, standards at slaughter, Australia and New Zealand are sometimes judged to have slightly higher standards than ours. So generally speaking, if you look at our animal welfare outcomes, there's a high degree of equivalence between the UK and Australia. When it comes to hormones in beef and some of the beef lot systems that they would have on beef in Australia, that wouldn't be the case, and that's why we've kept in place that ban on hormones. And we've also recognised that because these are sensitive sectors, we should, in fact, put in place staging towards liberalisation. We've put in place 15 years staging with a special agricultural safeguard that kicks in between years 10 and 15. And recognising that their animal welfare standards on pork and on poultry in particular are very low and unacceptable, we've refused to do any tariff liberalisation on those particular sectors.
And I guess, the point that Andrew makes, how can you assure this audience that those future deals, we've seen that one, we then saw New Zealand demanding the exact same. They are the only two fully liberalised countries themselves, mainly because they're big exporters of agricultural products, and they have small populations. We, on the other hand, are what I would say is the most prized food market in the world, with 60 million people, and everybody wants access to this food market. So we gave it away on a plate to Australia. And how does that leave us as we negotiate these further trade deals? And my biggest worry, as you know, was always that we would be effectively a form agriculture on the back of a service-based economy. And with all we have to go on today, that is how it looks.
Well, look, on all trade agreements, obviously they're not like joining the EU, which was in many ways seen as an irrevocable step at the time. And as we've learned over the last 4 years, quite difficult to extract yourself from. In all modern trade deals, they end with a very simple termination clause. And it's very hard to predict the future. My judgment is that in 15 years, there will be lots of other issues affecting global commodity prices. The market may have changed quite considerably because of climate change, because of land that can produce food today not being able to in the future. It's hard to predict this. You can only make the best judgment available to you on the evidence that you've got. And that's why we put in place that 15-year staging, put in place a special agricultural safeguard that automatically kicks in at a particular volume after year 10, should there be a sharp increase. But crucially, you've always got the opportunity with trade agreements of this sort to renegotiate them in the future.
You know, when I look at what I said, and I put so much thought into what I want to say and how I want to say it and how I want to influence, and I think we are absolutely 100% right to be focusing on the optimisation, to be focusing on the really increased resource that needs to go into the SFI in this transition period. It's not in the right place at the moment. I'm absolutely certain of that. We've got so much opportunity before us. I think the panel session you heard just now, the opportunity is there. And to a certain extent, we can do a lot of it without government. But we go so much further when we go together. And I want to touch on Theo in a minute, but going together, you go further. There is a job of work to do, I think, with this government. I think it became very, very clear yesterday that this is not about that binding partnership between environment and food production. And getting that political agreement on the optimisation is not on the table at the moment yet. You know, it is very much around, taking land out of production, 30% of land, don't forget, and raising standards. It will change. It will change. It always does. And we just have to keep championing this great industry. Don't forget, 1 million people. If I look at the figures, 75% of the public have a favourable view now of farming. 24% have a more favourable view than they have ever had. The public are with us. They are really, really with us. So it's just a closed conference by saying the NFU, I'm facing an election, so I'm not going to talk about me, but what I am going to say is the NFU will do whatever it takes on your behalf to shape that thriving future for your businesses. It will do always whatever it takes. Enjoy your lunch. It's so wonderful to see you here, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, conference.
So now we have got the office holder elections to finish off 2 days of the NFU conference. We've got Nick here, who is Lincolnshire County Chairman and also East Midlands County Chairman, aren't you? Well, not County, but East Midlands Region Chairman. So here we are, we'll all come in. We've got voting pad here that we use to vote for the office holders, and everybody now is all the chairman and council delegates of each region in the country are coming in ready to vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll pause there, I think, and at that...
Well, that's it. Conference is finished. We've just done the voting for the elections as well, and because I'm Lincolnshire Council delegate, I take part in the elections along with the county chairs as well. So had a great 2 days, lots of thought-provoking stuff. And we've got Minette re-elected as president, Tom Bradshaw as deputy, and David Exwood as vice. We always try and put feeders where they're sheltered. We've got these old tree trunks trunks and stumps here, protecting the wind out there from the prevailing wind. It comes from our southwest, so we'll try and put these feeders behind everywhere. It's just better for the birds when they're feeding, and it stops the lids blowing off. You'll see in a minute I've got to put some bricks on top of one. Got a pool of water on the edge of this field. It's the bottom of the field that we've just seen sugar beet on last year, so we need to put a drain in here and into this dike, just through there, not very far. I just don't like to see water stood anywhere. That really shouldn't have it. Today's day and age with machinery and drainage capability and everything, there's no need to have water stood anywhere, I don't think. One of the songbird feeders in the woods, and just going down the track. I'll just park my nose of the vehicle just through here, and this area would be great with the wind coming because it's lovely and sheltered here from the prevailing. It's just in the trees, just in there, with a big blue feeder. You can see here now down this grass strip, there's a partridge on the left, just going in the long grass. There's a hen pheasant there nearer the hedge, and there's some more partridges and pheasants in here because it's sheltered, and it's great having these areas that they can get out the wind from. While I'm out the wind and you can hear me, just looking at this margin, you can see here we've got a bit of water stood on it, got a bit of compaction. All these margins around the farm, we've got 6 metre grass and flower margins around every field. They've all been down since 2005, and this is the last year of our 5-year countryside stewardship agreement, and we will go into another scheme still on the countryside stewardship mid-tier agreement, and before we go into one of the new schemes in the next year or so. But we'll keep going with this because I think it's so important to have environmental features around the farm. It's also very good for the public image of farming and food production, looking at what we're doing for wildlife. And so we will keep these, having these down all these years, and the amount of wildlife we've built up I think is just so useful. I don't want to get rid of that. See here, look, there's a pheasant, just shows the feeding off these songbird feeders here. This is, yeah, you can just see there. We've got a lot of water coming down this river, you can see behind me here, and yeah, it's brown water. This isn't water that from our fields, it comes from right across there from the village, off the road, and it comes right through the middle of our farm. Hey Frankie, she's obviously got some holes here where rats and things have been in. That's the only problem with feeding here like this, but Frankie's obviously can smell where they've been. So just getting back to these margins, and the water stood on them. They haven't been really cultivated or anything done to them since 2005. So this spring, this probably April, May, when they've dried up, I'm going to try and find a grassland subsoiler with very low disturbance legs and a disc in front to chop the ground so this doesn't lift and damage the turf, and go around all our margins and just try and put a bit of structure back into them, because we've got quite a few of these that's got this water stood on them. Years of hedge cutting in the winter obviously hasn't helped this, but we need to do it and rectify these this coming May. I just thought I'd come and have a look at the beck where we installed this large pipe a few months ago. We had 10 millimetres of rain last night and another 10 or 15 the previous few days. If you look back at my update number 14 here on YouTube at the end of October, this is where we installed this pipe. It's a 1.5 metre twin wall plastic poly pipe, and you can see now via volume of water coming through why we needed that diameter. It's bringing water off the A17, Leadenham Village, other farmers' land coming through here, but my water doesn't start or enter this beck until this point. And here you can see one of our land drains running, but it's running clear despite us cultivating, which is great signs that to what we're doing. But the ends of the pipe you'll see aren't made up yet. We're going to come back in May, and when it's dried up, and we're going to sandbag all the ends up and do them properly with concrete and tidy this bridge up and finish it off. But at the minute it's doing a great job carrying all this volume of water through, which eventually ends up in the River Witham. We've got our oat seed has arrived this morning. We've got 17 bags. Hello. Seed treatment, which is a bit of a growth promoter, rooting, help it rooting. on our heavy land, it always helps. 1,000 grain weight there, 27.9, so yes, it's low compared to the wheat over 60, but it will be because oats are always low. And I'm not quite sure what these must be lot numbers here, but you see there, this is the treatment, Ready Go Pro for disease, and then there's the takeoff for the growth promoter. Ruben, Tom and myself have just come to Farrell's, new dealership near me, to talk about the 8RX to see what we do. We'll go inside now and have a word with them. We've got some gators outside here. What else have we got? Got the 9RX there, 370 8RX, wheeled equivalent, all going down in size. Here we go, let's go in. They're all just getting set up for the open date on Monday, where they're launching these 6Rs. This 185 apparently boosts up to 230. So this 215 must go to, I don't know, 260 probably. Getting everything put in place. Just having a look at this Kramer forklift. Got 407, which is 4 ton to 7 meters lift. Nice little compact machine. We'll just have a look in the cab. Nice cutaway in the cab floor to get in and out, so you're not banging your shins. Joystick, there's your forward and reverse, boom, in and out, control, there's your steering modes, and all the switches here. What are these, Adam, we say here?
So they're handling switches, so you've got manual handling, pallet mode and bucket mode. So
on that one?
Pallet mode is parallel lift.
Yep.
And extend at the same time.
Yeah.
Then bucket mode is when you've extended and tipped into a lorry or container.
Yeah.
As you push the stick down to lower the boom, it retracts automatically.
And these here, you're locking, that locks the hydraulics.
Yeah, they're your safety and locking mechanisms.
Yeah.
Your boom suspension.
Yeah.
And your third services for constant pumping for your boom.
Yeah. 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 Good visibility. There's another model there. What do you call that one with the centre boom?
That's the KL55.8T. So that's got a telescopic centre boom on it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good machine.
So on the
and then this is the other one we've just been looking at. Similar joystick and controls, but the centre boom, I bet it takes some getting used to, and pivot steer. I know I've driven one a few years ago and it just felt really weird, really weird. And there we have 8RX. So there we go, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you ever so much for watching. Please come back with any comments and questions, and please click like and subscribe. And until next week, where we hopefully will have an update on this heap behind me here will be in the factory. Until then, cheerio.